Hello, and welcome to another video on The Rosey Life. I'm so glad that you are here. Today we're going to talk about several things that all tie in together. And the premise, the most important point of this video is something that many call third parties. Third parties is what you hear on a lot of videos, on a lot of content in creators, in thousands and thousands probably of teachers and coaches and books talking about the third party, the infidelity. This is what we hear a lot. Then you hear about how to eliminate a third party, how to remove a third party. And what I want to share with you is that it is not a party. It is a problem. A problem that you unknowingly put there, and then you try to figure out how to remove it. We're going to talk about a part of one of Neville Goddard's one of his lectures rather, and it's an excerpt of his lecture called God's Word. And you can read the whole thing on your own, or you can probably find the whole lecture that is on YouTube, I'm sure. And I'm going to read some of that, and I also want to share two different success stories in this video and how they removed their third party. But remember, it's not a party. Think about it. It's like when you hear a third party, it's like you're thinking another person. But well, what I want you to now see, everything and anything that seemingly is in your way, anything that tells you that I don't have it. Remember, you have it all. I have it all. Anything and anyone that says, whether it's your own thoughts and feelings, whether it's your memories, whether it's something that you think you're looking at on the outside, it is a problem that you created, that you put there. And that's what we're going to dive in deep into this video, because what I'm noticing with working with many new clients this week already is that the focus is never on with their desire, even though we think the focus is on the desire by imagining it, by affirming it, by choosing it, by deciding it, by all of these techniques that we might use, and we think we're using them to focus on what we want, because your awareness does create. That is what it's for. Your awareness does create. But what I notice when I talk to people, they don't really want to talk about their desire. They think that they're talking about their desire, but really what they're trying to talk to me about is how to overcome either something that they think is invisible, that they can't put their finger on, or they think that they're wanting to figure out how to overcome or deal with, cope with, work through a problem. Their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, whatever it is, they think that they need to overcome a problem, that they need to overcome thoughts, feelings, other identities, issues. And I made a full video, and I'll link it in below too, about that there's nothing to overcome. I think I made it last month or something. And there's nothing to overcome whatsoever, not at all. So trying to work through something and trying to overcome something will, by the end of this video, will seem ridiculous to you. Even though it feels real, even though the experience is real, and many of you will say it's in your face, it's not a third party, whether it's health, a person, money, whatever it is that you desire, and you think that there's something in your way, and you create a problem unknowingly, forgetting that that problem is made up. Because what we're talking about here is 3P. It's not a party. It's not a fun party. So it's definitely, let's stop calling it a party. It's a problem. And it's not a problem in the sense that you have to overcome it. It's a problem that you created. Doesn't matter why or how would you do that. Why would I do that to myself? Blah, blah, blah. We don't need to know why. Remember, there's so many people out there saying you need to know why this works, you need to know how it works. And I'm going to show you how that actually keeps you stuck. It feels and seems logical to do that. It seems logical to want to understand why and how, all of these questions, right? You need to understand why everything works, how everything works. It seems logical. But what I'm going to share with you in my perspective here is how that actually keeps you stuck. Because in here I wrote, your brain or your ego or your character or your mind, whatever terms you want to call, because these are all concepts. So it doesn't really matter what you call it, because these are all manifestations of you. You have to become aware that there's a brain. You have to become aware there's an ego, a character, a mind, and there's nothing wrong with any of this. But you must understand that you are aware of those things. You are the one creating it all. So when there's a problem, a third problem, what is the third problem? It's because I and the Father are one. So anything outside of I and the Father is the third problem. There's that thing you think is in the way of you and your desires, but that thing is an illusion. It does not actually factually exist. It's a real feeling, it's a real experience, but we're going to get into this deeper. So the brain or the ego, the character, the mind, it's always asking why. Why does this work? Why is this happening? Why do I keep seeing this? Why do I feel this? Why? How? And if it's not why, it's how. How do I get rid of it? How come this keeps happening to me? How come I don't get it? How come this isn't clicking? That's the other thing too. It's like someone said to me, they're like, I felt within 2 minutes of our call, I already heard what she was telling herself. And after she said it, she continued to go down the rabbit hole, explaining to me all the details of how she dug herself deeper into the asking, why don't I get it? Why doesn't this click? And once she saw that, I said, I'm going to pull you back up to the beginning of the conversation. For the first 2 minutes, you said it. Because you made the assumption that unless you understand why, unless you understand how, and when you achieve the why, when you achieve the how, then you'll be able to manifest and have the thing that you want. And she was like, whoa. The why, it never gives you a clear answer. Have you ever noticed? Your ego asking why, your brain asking why, how, when, but. Notice it always gives you billions of questions. And once you answer some questions, it'll just develop more questions to put on top of the answer that you just found. So you can look for videos and books and Google information, and then it'll proceed to develop brand new questions for you to keep exploring. But it's never going to give you the solution, okay? Because it never gives you the solution, because it just wants you. It wants you. Those questions, that brain, that ego, that character mind isn't able to answer. It is able to develop and create questions. It has you seeking and searching and wanting, looking for where is it, why don't I have it, blah, blah, blah. But it won't give you solutions. It just wants you to come up with the answers. Listen to that really clearly. It doesn't give you solutions. If you really just pay attention for 24 hours, on all the questions it comes up with, the worries, the doubts, the fears. It says why. It wants you to come up with the answers. It's waiting for you to come up with the answers. It's throwing questions at you, and it wants you to come up with the answers. And then you might proceed to give it answers, but it's never going to be satisfied, because it'll just throw more questions for you to go search. So why? Because you are the answer. That's why the mind, the ego, the character, the brain, it only produces questions. And it comes to you for the answer because you are the answer. You are the technique. You are the answer. You are the decider. So to look at your mind, your brain, and trying to get it to be quiet, trying to get it to shut up, trying to get it to be silent through meditation, through doing all sorts of stuff, trying to get it to shut up and be quiet, it does nothing at all because it'll just start up again. It'll go to sleep for a little bit and then it wakes up with more questions for you to answer. It'll never answer them. It'll never give you the solution for them. But what it will do is continuously give you more questions because it's waiting for you to answer it. Not answer its questions, but it's waiting for you to decide what's next. You're either feeding your mind questions and answering all the questions, scratching the itch to why this, how that, why this, but explain this, but what about this, but what about this? What do I do in this scenario? But it doesn't apply to this, and doesn't apply to this. It's easier for this. Why is it easier for this and not for that? All the questions. You think it's you being logical with asking questions, but that's not even you asking the questions. It's this, the brain, the ego, the character asking all the questions. I've heard many references to this. You don't need to learn how to build a car for you to get in and drive it. You don't need to learn how to build an airplane for you to buy a ticket and go on and fly. What do? You get in and just drive it. You get in and fly it. You assume it drives. You assume it works. You don't ask a lot of questions for many things in your life that are, we'll call them they could be life-threatening if you want to talk about it. A car, you're driving around in I don't know how much a car weighs, like 5,000-pound automobile, and you don't even question how it works or if the brakes are actually going to pump if you hit them. The brain will ask you why, how, when. It's just waiting for you to decide on an answer. If you want to answer all the questions that you have, there you will remain. You'll remain in question land. Or you can simply decide, it's this way because I said so. I don't owe you a response. I don't need your continuous questions. And even if you say that, it'll continue to ask, but why don't you need? But is that safe? Is that safe for you to not ask questions? But isn't it wise for us to ask questions? Isn't that what we should be doing? But I'm not going to be naive. You're going to be naive if you don't keep asking questions. So keep asking questions. You will continue to go down the rabbit hole of asking questions. Never receiving an answer. You can't, because you are the answer. You are the answer. Your awareness of being, your personal awareness of being is the answer. I can't answer it for you. Your own awareness of being is the one that decides. When I say I am the answer, when that scripture says I am the answer, that is you. You are the answer. You are the one deciding. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your answer. It's that way because I said so. Why? Because I said so. Why? Because. Be the cause. It's even built into the word because. Because. You are the cause. Why? Because. So the answer is you. The brain creates problems and questions. So the 3P is just a problem that you create, and then you put it there. You believe it. You put the problem there so you can point at it. You point at your problem, And then you figure out how to get rid of the problem, how to get rid of the issue, how to deal with it, how to cope with it. In the meantime, what do I do in the meantime? What do I do in the meantime? How do I fix this? Keeping yourself in your own problem. It's not a party, it's your problem. And it's not a problem in the sense that you got to figure it out. It's on you. No. They're elusive problems. It's not even there. And when you see it, you can't unsee this. It's like I was talking to a couple of people, one of my friends, and then I shared this with a client. Imagine that you're in a pool, a swamp with alligators. And you notice that you're in the swamp, and all of a sudden all these alligators start appearing. And you're screaming for help. You're trying to get out. You feel the alligator grabbing you, your leg. You feel it like getting closer, and you start panicking. You're screaming and you're wanting help. You're saying, help, someone help me, get me out of here. And then all of a sudden you hear from somewhere, inside of you hear, push the button. And you're like, who's that? And you just hear, push the button. Then you're saying, where's the button? Where's the button? And then the button is right there in front of you. And it says, push me. And you push the button. And then the swamp you thought you were in disappears. There's no water, there's no alligators. It's just you standing in the middle of a park or your house or wherever. You realize there was nothing there. What's the button, you ask? It's you. It's your decision. It's your awareness of being. It's you being aware that there was never a problem. There was never a third party. I don't care what kind of problem you think there is, but it doesn't exist. I want to read you this, and it's from Neville Goddard's lecture called God's Word. And the first part of it, he talks about a woman who comes in sharing one of her dreams, and it was about a beautiful dream that she has, and she runs to tell Neville about this beautiful dream. And then he has an experience of his own that he shares after reading William Blake, because William Blake was somebody that Neville Goddard studied quite a bit. And he read in this, I awoke and yet continued dreaming. And that was William Blake's lecture. The book was called Looking at Modern Painting. And it was a chapter on Max Beck. And it said, I awoke and yet continued dreaming. So he's reading this, and he says, in the book, he quoted a little piece, and it says, do not be intimidated by the horrors of the world. Everything is ordered and correct and must fulfill its destiny in order to attain perfection. Seek this path, and you will receive from your own aid a deeper perception of the eternal beauty of creation, and you will know an ever-increasing release from that which now seems so sad and terrible. Just like William Blake, this lady knew that everything is ordered and perfect, and it should be for man to experience. And this is the part that I wanted to share with you about the monster, the problem. When you hear me talk about the monster that he talks about here, I want you to insert the word problem or third problem. Now, let me share an experience of mine. When I was in my 20s, I found myself in the presence of the most beautiful woman I could ever perceive, and a horrible, hairy monster, which resembled an ape or a gorilla. The monster looked at the heavenly being, and speaking in a guttural voice, he called her mother. Well, I lost my temper, and as I pummeled the monster, meaning I pummeled it, he like went for it, right? The monster began to grow. So he attacks the monster. But when he attacked the monster began to grow. Thriving on violence, I realized that this was my emanation. He was the embodiment of every evil thought I had ever had and all of my violent acts, while the heavenly woman represented every noble, kind deed I had ever committed. Looking from one to the other, I vowed to myself, since there was no one present with whom I could make a contract, that if it took me eternity, I would redeem this monster. As I made this commitment, the monster began to melt away before my eyes. And as it dissolved, all of my misspent and misused energy that went into shaping of this monster, as I traveled the path of time, returned to me, feeling like infinite power. I watched the radiant creature begin to glow like the sun as I awoke. Now, this story, I love this story, and you can even find the shorter lecture of Neville's about the monster on YouTube. Sorry, you guys can hear Mabel in the background. That's with her and her bone. Okay. Okay, so the monster represents the problem. That's what it represents. That's what he's talking about. He says right here, he was in the presence of the most beautiful woman I could ever perceive. In other words, his awareness of being. That is your perfect, beautiful awareness of being. And a horrible, hairy monster, which resembles an ape or gorilla. The monster looked at the heavenly being, and speaking in a guttural voice, he called her mother. Well, I lost my temper. And as I pummeled it, the monster began to grow. He's saying there that horrible monster, this horrible problem, looked at your awareness of being and called it mother, because it was born from it. The mother is you, your beautiful I am awareness of being, the perfection, the wholeness of you, who you really are, the I have everything, I am everything. And Neville says, I got mad at that monster for even thinking that it could possibly come from him. Why would I create an ugly monster for myself? Why would I create such horrible alligators in a swamp to bite me, to hurt me, to insult me, to make my heart broken, to make me feel broke and sad and struggle, to make me unhealthy? Why would I create that for myself, as many of you talk about? And so he leaned in and went in to push the monster. He pummeled it. In other words, he went in to sock it, to get rid of it. He went in hard and said, no, get out of here. No. But when he did that, and what does that look like for you guys, right? It's when you resist it, when you want to pretend it's not there. You put Instagram on mute. You delete or throw away your bills or your papers. You pretend it doesn't exist. You avoid your 3D circumstances. You do all kinds of things. You try to override the monster. You try to affirm on top of it. You try to do something. You meditate. You'll medicate yourself. You'll do anything to get rid of the monster. But when he did, what happened? The monster began to grow. The problem gets worse. It got bigger. It got bigger, it got harder, it got sadder, it got more anxious, all of the things that you guys talk about. Because it's not just what you resist persist, which is a great quote from Abraham Hicks. It's not just that. It's that you're pushing it away and you're attacking it as if you didn't put it there. As if you didn't put it there. And then if that's not good enough, you will turn around and attack yourself and judge yourself for putting it there. Still holding the monster in place, making it bigger. Thriving on violence, he says. I realize this was my emanation. Wow. It thrives on the violence of the violence that you have towards yourself. The judging, the shame, the guilt, the finger pointing. It's their fault. It's that person's fault. I wish I would have never learned that. Why did this happen? Why is this happening to me? Why is this in my face? I'm a good person. Why does that keep happening to me? I've done all the techniques. I've done everything. Why is this here? Still, the monster thrives on your violence. Then it says, I realized that this was my emanation. He paused. What the hell? I made it up. I put it there. And I fought it. And I shamed myself for creating it, but yet still keeping it alive. While the heavenly woman represented every noble, kind deed and had ever committed, looking from one to the other, I vowed to myself, since there was no one present with whom I could make a contract. In other words, there is no one else to blame. There is nowhere to look for. Nothing is outside of you because there's no out there. There is no one for you to point the finger at. I realize who's going to help me, who's going to get me out of this. It came from you. He said, I vowed to myself then that if it took me an eternity, I would redeem this monster. In other words, I am hell-bent somehow, some way, that this thing that I think is so real and such a problem, I will redeem it. I will redeem it. I will redeem it. You will redeem it. If it took me an eternity. That's what he said. And as I made this commitment, because he didn't take that responsibility for it with judgment and shame and guilt and feeling powerless and like, but how do I do it? As he made the commitment, because he realized that monster indeed was an emanation of him, the monster began to melt before my eyes. Instant. When you see the button says push here, it melted away. And as it dissolved, all of my misspent and misused energy, in other words, the crying, the blaming, the shaming, the guilt writing, the punishing, the seeking, the why, the how, the when, all of it that went into shaping your monster, as I traveled the path of time, returned to me. All that power, all that energy, all of which he put into creating the monster, returned to him, because it was him. It was all him. Feeling like infinite power, I watched the radiant creature begin to glow like the sun as I awoke, because there was never a problem. there was never a third problem or party. There was never one to begin with. You put it there. So if you put it there and it's an illusion, why would you have to overcome it? Why do you have to figure it out, what to do with it? When you realize you put it there for you to figure out, what do I do with this thing that I put there? There's nothing to figure out when you remember you put it there. Why do you have to manage your emotions, manage your 3D, manage your creation, manage anything when it's not even a real truth? It's not reality. It's an experience, a monster, a problem, a party you put there. You don't have to figure out why. Why did I put it there? I don't understand why I would do that to myself. Feeding the monster with more violence of, but why, but how? Remember that all the why and the how is looking to you for the answer, for you to decide, who are you? Who are you? And now, who am I? And now, who am I? So when I spoke to several clients this week, I told them the focus is on overcoming something that is not even real. Instead of remembering and recognizing that that problem is not even real. Taking the focus off of overcoming and fixing something that is not real, and putting the focus and the attention of that ever-present now onto who do you decide that you are now. Because the problem's going to keep screaming. The brain's going to keep asking for giving you more questions to solve. But when you decide, who am I? You see the monster, you see the problem, and you remember that it is not real. You're literally reacting to a story that you put there, and you keep reacting and reacting and reacting to the same story. And until you stop creating the story and reacting to your story, it's not about, I need to stop reacting. Oh, that's the key. I need to stop reacting. No. Recognize that the story that you were trying to stop yourself from reacting to isn't even real. It's an illusion. It's not even what it seems. Why would you need to control yourself from reacting to something that doesn't even exist? The only thing that is true, the only thing that is reality is who you are being right now. That's it. I want to share with you these beautiful stories to elaborate this a little bit further. This one is, hi Rosie. Before I share my story, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up as you do. Your humor, your authenticity, and the way you speak so openly is just damn magnetic. Well, thank you. You have a way of making people laugh while simultaneously reminding them of who they truly are. That's a skill, if you ask me. I agree. So last year, a business partner, I'm gonna take a sip of water, hold on you guys. Last year, a business partner at the time assisted me with a car, but unfortunately, the car turned out to be faulty and had to be returned. As an Uber driver at the time, that was incredibly stressful because my car was bringing in some bucks. Not the money I was crazy about, but I felt like I had no other choice back then. You guys identify the problem yet? By the way, this person is in my membership, and I absolutely love her. She has commented in videos, she has mentioned it in the membership live, that she has been an Uber driver. She was an Uber driver for some time, and she said out of her gratitude that she kept sharing the Rosey Life channel with all the people in her, any of the people in her car that would listen. And she was sharing the videos, the channel, the message with the people in the Uber. And I'm just like, I got chills when I heard her say that, because it's like, I have no idea when I make a video, like right now I'm filming this video and I'm talking to a camera, and I don't know who is gonna reach where in the world. And the way that I find that out is by your comments and your stories and your emails that you guys send me. And then I get to say, wow, there's an Uber driver out there sharing the Rosey Life channel, sharing my videos, sharing the message, because she's so grateful for what she has found out and remembered about herself. And I say thank you so much for you and for all the rest of you that do things in your own way just the same. So she had a car, it broke down, and that was her source of income. That's what she's saying. But then the car broke down. Problem. For nearly 3 months, I had no car and no income. It was a very uncertain time. Imagine that being your only source of income, the Uber car, and that breaks down, and now she has no income. She looked to the car as her source of income. She looked to driving for Uber as her source of income. That's not good or bad. It has nothing to do with that. But she looked to the job, to the car, to the things as her source of income. I just kept watching your videos because I was so determined to recognize who the fuck I really am. Wow. I have goosebumps right now, you guys. Let me see. Going back to the Neville lecture, looking from one to the other, I vowed to myself that if it took me an eternity, I would redeem the monster. I just kept watching your videos because I was so determined to recognize who the fuck I really am. Come on, you guys, it's the same thing. That's why I thought of that lecture immediately when I made this video. Neville was determined to redeem the monster. She was determined to recognize who the fuck she really is. Wow. Wow. Then, out of the blue, my housemate, who is also my best friend of 27 years, and now lives and works in Ireland, was able to help me finance a brand new car, and earning in a different currency certainly helped out big time. Then just 5 months later, he surprised me again and suggested getting a second brand new car to put on Uber as an additional source of income for myself. When I look back now, I can't help but smile. I went from stressing out about having no car at all to having 2 brand new cars. I'll attach photos, and she did attach photos, and they're super cool photos of her brand new cars. But listen to this, you guys. When I look back now, I can't help but smile. What did Neville say? He says, feeling like infinite power, I watched the radiant creature begin to glow like the sun as I awoke. I mean, come on. One of the ways I showed my appreciation for what I was receiving from your videos was by sharing your wisdom with people I met along the way. It felt like my way of paying it forward, or how you put it so beautifully, doing the Lord's work. I love that. I did say that to her in one of the membership lives. More than the cars, what I am most grateful for is realizing that I am not my circumstances. In other words, that she is not in the swamp of gators. The cars were amazing, but the truth was recognizing that circumstances never had the power to define me because they weren't real. The real gift was remembering who I am and recognizing that I get to decide who I am. She put her name in there, but I'm not going to mention her name. Which is why I am changing things up now. Letting Uber go and choosing something I've recently just been way more passionate about. But I'm keeping in mind that some way, somehow, I'll be provided for until this new venture pays out. Rose, thank you for the laughs, the perspective you share so eloquently. All your content helped me through some challenging moments, which is why I am one of your newest members. Can't get enough of some Rosie. Ha ha ha. Sending so much love and appreciation from South Africa. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me, with the Rosey Life, and with all of us, because that was a badass. That was a badass story. I hope you guys are seeing the beautiful parallels in this. I want to share you this. We're going to wrap up and we're going to share you this last story. I have other ones. I have an amazing other story too that I want to share about money in another video, so this video doesn't get too long. So this video, this other story was beautiful. It says, "Hi Rose, I am not one of your clients, but I am a member of your YouTube channel and follow you on TikTok as well. First, I just want to say thank you for pointing me back to myself in such a simple way and helping me to see that I am everything," all caps. "I have been sitting here contemplating how I want to share a success story with you one day, and then it dawned on me. It's how it is. That's how it is. It just like, what? I already have one. I already have a success story, and this one is powerful, you guys. They all are, but this one really gave me the full-on goosebumps. In coming to see that I am everything, I can now see how my reality reflects back to me, my own heart, and I am seeing how beautiful it is." She's saying how her reality is reflecting her own heart back to her. What started me on this journey was trying to figure out why a connection I had with someone was so incredibly intense and important to me. Oh, it's the emotional attachment. Oh, it's harder to manifest this because you're emotionally attached. So that's why the emotions are higher for a person than they are for a car. Listen to this. I had with someone was so incredibly intense and important to me. I was seeking answers. We've all done it, dude. Okay, I'm not blameless. I was like down the why rabbit hole forever. Okay, it felt like forever, but it wasn't, because there is no forever. There's only now. Okay, I found the twin flame community. Got into healing my inner child, healing twin flame separation, tarot, looking deeply into myself and the beliefs I held. So she went down the twin flame community rabbit hole. She went down the healing the inner child rabbit hole. She went down the tarot card rabbit hole. She went down into digging up her beliefs and assumptions that were holding her back. Gee, I wonder where that came from. I held, trying to figure out what I needed to let go of. That's what she was doing. I did all those things, trying to figure out what it is that I needed to let go of. What did I need to fix? What beliefs, assumptions, thoughts, identities, what did I need to let go of? Then I found the rabbit hole of manifestation content that sent me into trying to live in the end, be in alignment, all to get my SP. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted to be loved. I was trying to prove to myself that getting my SP would somehow make me powerful, worthy, and complete. This is, you guys, this is very, I see this a lot, and I personally have been here. That thinking that if I manifest a specific thing I want, that big thing, then that is the proof that I'm actually source, that I'm powerful. Waiting for that manifestation to come in so that I can prove to myself that I'm source, prove that I'm powerful. Without it, I was a peanut rolling around on the ground. I made my SP the center of my entire life. Wow. I became heavily devoted to her life. What was going on in her life, her marriage, trying to convince myself it was all going to change for me. Yet I still felt like I was loved, but not chosen, because of her devotion to her own family. After trying all of these things to no avail, I recently started seeing myself through a different lens. I have been experiencing my love, my devotion, how deeply I am unconditional. Then I heard you talk about I am everything. I realized I wasn't actually experiencing her. I was experiencing the depth at which my heart can love. Whoa. I was experiencing how expansive and beautiful it is to love someone so much that I am willing to forego my own desires just to see someone else happy. That is such a beautiful experience to have. I already am experiencing the love I desire with her. And I truly believe I'll get to share a full circle story. But even before that happens, I can already see that I am that love. I already am it because I already have it and always have. Damn! That's the manifestation. If you guys for 1 second think it's the SP, that is the manifestation, what I just read. That is the truth. That is reality. That is who you are. And you can really feel it in her words. You can really feel it like I sure the hell did. I hope this is coming across the way I am intending. It's hard to express in words. I get it, girl or guy, I don't even know. Of course it's hard to express in words because who we are is inexplainable. We can't explain it. I don't need to stop. I don't need to get rid of, or I don't need to avoid, force, heal, or ignore any of this experience of life because it is all me. Every part of it has shown me something about myself. You guys, it's so powerful. But I get to choose what defines me. I get to choose who I am. For what feels like the first time in my life, I finally see myself. Whoa! I finally see myself. as whole after spending a lifetime trying to fit into a world that I now realize has always been reflecting me back to myself. So thank you. Your content has been one of the biggest catalyst in helping me finally see that. Wow. Wow. I intend you watch this video as many times as you need to, because the truth is simple. You already are everything. You already have everything. Period. The rest is just telling you you don't. And it's an illusion. It's not even there. It's a real in every way. Because if an alligator is biting your ass, I know that will hurt. But don't forget, feed the monster with more questions, more how, but, when, or you can do what these two people shared with you. What did they do? Affirming, what did they do? I don't understand. How they changed they saw themselves as a one and only source. They were determined to see who they are. And they did. And so it was. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.